It begins with a silence you can feel in your bones, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind that presses against your chest, makes you notice your own breathing, and in that silence, there's a boy barefoot, still eyes staring, but not at you, not at anyone, as if he sees something none of us can. And then he does something impossible. Slowly, step by step, he walks backwards up the wall, not climbing, not jumping, walking his feet flat against the surface, his body upright, defying everything we know about gravity, and for a moment, no one moves and no one breathes, because sometimes the human mind can explain things away. But not this, not tonight. Did you see that? Someone whispers, but nobody answers, because the answer is written on every face in that room. Yes, they saw it, and nothing will ever be the same. That night in Gary, Indiana, back in 2012, changed everything for the Ammons family, changed everything for the police who wrote it down, changed everything for the social workers who witnessed it, and changed everything for anyone who ever doubted that evil could walk into an ordinary house and stay there. This is the true story of what the reports call a deliverance, but what others call a haunting. The Ammons family had moved into their rental house in November of 2011, a small, ordinary home on Carolina Street. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but affordable, a fresh start for Latoya Ammons and her 3 kids. IT was supposed to be safe, but the first signs came quickly. Flies, hundreds of them, swarming in the middle of winter, gathering against the porch screen, crawling over the doors, buzzing, constant, everywhere. Latoya fought them off with sprays, with traps, with swatters, but they always came back. It wasn't just flies. Footsteps creaked across the basement stairs at night. The shadow of a tall figure moved through the rooms when no one was there, and sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, the family would hear voices, low, angry, whispering in the dark. At first, they tried to explain it away, old house pipes, imagination, but then the kids began to change. They woke screaming at night. Their eyes rolled back in their heads. They spoke in voices too deep for their small bodies. And sometimes, they laughed when no joke had been told, laughed in voices that weren't their own. "You're gonna die in here," one of the boys muttered once, his face twisted. Latoya froze. Her mother, Rosa, clutched across. The boy blinked, then looked normal again, as if nothing had happened. But something had, and they all knew it. Word began to spread. Neighbors said they saw shadows moving through the blinds. Visitors felt sick when they stepped inside. And one by one, family members stopped coming around, until it was just Latoya, her mom, and the kids, alone with whatever lived inside that house. And then came the night that broke everything open. IT started with noises, thuds, creaks, and then a scream. Latoya ran into her daughter's room. The little girl was levitating, her body lifted off the bed, suspended in the air, her eyes wide but empty, her small arms stretched out stiff. Rosa shouted prayers. Latoya grabbed her daughter's ankles, pulling her down, screaming her name, and just as suddenly as it started, the girl dropped, crying, sobbing, alive, but changed. This wasn't a haunting anymore. This was a possession, and it wasn't going to stop. They called priests, they called doctors, they called the police, and soon the Department of Child Services got involved, because when kids are in danger, the state steps in. But no one was ready for what happened during one of those visits. The DCS worker stood in the living room. The boy was quiet at first. Then his eyes rolled back, his lips curled into a smile, and he began to growl. He grabbed his brother by the throat. Adults rushed in, pulling them apart, and then, before anyone could stop him, he turned to the wall and walked backwards, straight up, feet flat against the paint, hands by his sides, body stiff. He walked all the way up, and then flipped over the top, landing on his feet. Like it was nothing. Silence. Every adult in the room froze. The DCS worker dropped her pen, the nurse screamed, and a police officer swore he'd never go back in that house again. IT was written down in the official reports. Not rumor, not gossip, documented, signed, because they all saw it. That's when the church got involved. Father Michael Maginot, the priest who never thought he'd see something like this in his lifetime, but he believed, and he stepped into that house, armed with holy water, armed with prayer,
and armed with the conviction that this family was under attack. He blessed every room, sprinkled salt on the windows, read from the scriptures. But as he prayed, lights flickered, shadows moved across the walls, and Latoya's children screamed. The youngest convulsed, the oldest cursed, and the middle boy growled like an animal. "I command you to leave this house," Father Maginot shouted. But the walls shook, and the air turned heavy. It was only the beginning.